I want to talk to you today about a quiet, invisible thief that robs a great many older adults of their strength, their independence, and their resilience. So gradually that most people never notice it happening until the damage is done, and that almost everyone assumes is just an unavoidable part of getting old. I'm talking about the loss of muscle that comes with age, a process with a name, sarcopenia, which simply means the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength. And here's the most important thing I want you to take from today, the hopeful heart of it. While some muscle loss with age is natural, it is not something you have to passively accept, because muscle can be preserved and even rebuilt at any age, including in your 70s, 80s, and beyond, through the right kind of activity and nutrition. This matters enormously because your muscle is not just about looking strong or being athletic. It is the very foundation of your independence, your mobility, your balance, your protection against falls, and your ability to weather illness. So today I want to explain what sarcopenia is, why it happens, why it matters so profoundly for your later years, and most importantly, exactly how to fight back against it. Because this is one of the most empowering things an older adult can understand, that you have real power over your own strength. Let me start with what sarcopenia actually is and how it unfolds, because understanding it shows why it's so sneaky. Starting somewhere in midlife, around our 40s, and accelerating in our later decades, we naturally tend to lose muscle mass with each passing decade if we do nothing to counter it. And importantly, we lose muscle strength even faster than we lose muscle size. This loss is gradual and invisible, which is exactly why it's so dangerous. You don't wake up one day suddenly weak. Instead, year by year, you lose a little strength, a little muscle, so slowly that you adapt without noticing. You take the stairs a bit more slowly. You find the groceries a bit heavier. You push up out of the chair with a little more effort, and each small accommodation feels like nothing, like just getting older. But these small losses accumulate decade after decade until one day a person finds they genuinely struggle to rise from a chair, to climb stairs, to carry their shopping, to get up off the floor, to catch themselves when they stumble. By then, a great deal of muscle and strength has been quietly lost. And here's a crucial accelerating factor. Muscle loss speeds up dramatically during periods of inactivity, illness, or bed rest. An older adult who spends a week or two in bed with an illness or laid up after a fall or surgery can lose a striking amount of muscle very quickly and may struggle to regain it, which is why a single illness or injury can tip someone from independence into frailty. So sarcopenia is a gradual, invisible, accumulating loss of muscle and strength, punctuated by sharp drops during inactivity, and its sneakiness is exactly why so many people don't fight it until it's advanced. Let me explain why it happens, because understanding the causes points to the solutions. Several things drive age-related muscle loss. The body's ability to build and maintain muscle declines somewhat with age, partly due to hormonal changes and partly because aging muscle becomes more resistant to the signals from protein and exercise that tell it to build and maintain itself, a phenomenon sometimes called anabolic resistance, which means older muscle needs a bigger push to get the same building response. The nerves that activate muscle change with age, and hugely importantly, most people simply become less active as they age, doing less that challenges their muscles. And since muscle operates very much on a use-it-or-lose-it basis, that declining activity directly drives muscle loss. Poor nutrition, especially not getting enough protein, the building block of muscle, contributes, and as I've discussed elsewhere, many older adults don't get enough protein or don't distribute it well across the day. So muscle loss is driven by the natural aging of the muscle-building machinery, by anabolic resistance, by declining activity, and by inadequate protein. And the good news embedded in that list is that the two biggest levers, activity and protein, are entirely within your control. That's exactly why fighting back is so possible. Now let me make clear why this matters so profoundly, because muscle is far more central to your later life than most people realize, and understanding the stakes is what motivates action. Your muscles are the foundation of nearly everything that keeps you independent and well. They give you the strength for all the basic tasks of independent living: rising from a chair, climbing stairs, getting up off the floor, carrying groceries, opening jars, getting out of the bath. All the things that, when you can no longer do them, mean losing your independence. They are central to your balance and your ability to catch yourself when you stumble. So muscle is your direct protection against falls, which, as I've stressed, are one of the gravest threats to an older person. They are your metabolic reserve, helping regulate blood sugar, since muscle is a major site where the body uses glucose, so more muscle helps protect against diabetes. And critically, muscle is your reserve and resilience when illness or surgery strikes. People with more muscle weather illness, hospitalization, and surgery far better and recover faster, while those who have lost too much muscle can decline sharply and sometimes never fully recover. So when muscle is lost, people become weaker, frailer, slower, more prone to falls and fractures, less able to do the things that keep them independent, more vulnerable to illness and slower to recover, and at higher risk of losing their independence altogether. Preserving and building your muscle is, in a very real sense, preserving your independence, your safety, your resilience, and your quality of life in later years. That's why this invisible thief is worth fighting with everything you've got. So, let me get to the heart of the matter. Exactly how to fight back. Because this is the empowering part, and the central message is that you genuinely can preserve and rebuild muscle at any age. The single most powerful weapon is the right kind of exercise, specifically strength or resistance exercise, the kind that makes your muscles work against resistance, because that is the signal that tells your body to build and maintain muscle. Let me be clear and reassuring about what this means, because the word strength training intimidates people, and it shouldn't. It does not mean becoming a bodybuilder or lifting heavy weights in a gym, unless you want to. It means regularly challenging your muscles against resistance, which can take many gentle, accessible forms. The chair stand exercise, rising from a chair without using your hands and sitting back down, repeated as a set, is a wonderful, simple strength exercise that builds exactly the leg and hip muscles you need to stay independent and steady, and you can do it at home with no equipment. Gentle squats, holding on to something for support, build the same muscles. Step-ups, standing up onto a step, build leg strength. Resistance bands, those stretchy elastic bands, provide adjustable resistance for many muscles and are inexpensive and gentle. Light hand weights, or even household items like cans or water bottles, can be used for arm and shoulder strength. Wall push-ups build upper body strength gently. Exercises using your own body weight challenge your muscles. The key principle is to work your major muscle groups against some resistance, regularly, ideally a couple of times a week or more, and to gradually increase the challenge as you get stronger, because muscles build in response to being progressively challenged. So strength exercise, in gentle, accessible, home-friendly forms, is your most powerful tool, and it works at any age. Let me emphasize how genuinely effective this is, even very late in life, because this is the truly hopeful part, and people don't believe it until they hear it clearly. Study after study has shown that older adults, including those in their 80s and 90s, including frail nursing home residents, can significantly increase their muscle strength and size through resistance exercise, sometimes with remarkable gains in a matter of weeks or months. The aging body retains a real capacity to build muscle in response to the right stimulus, right to the end of life. So it is never ever too late to start, and you are never too old to get stronger. This is genuinely one of the most hopeful facts in all of aging, that one of the most important determinants of your independence and resilience, your muscle strength, is something you can actively improve at any age. The person who starts doing chair stands and gentle strength work in their 80s can become measurably stronger, steadier, and more capable, can rise from chairs more easily, climb stairs better, feel more confident on their feet, and protect themselves against falls and frailty. So please don't think this is only for the young or the fit, or that your window has passed. Whatever your age and condition, you can almost certainly get stronger, and doing so genuinely protects your independence. Now let me bring in the essential partner to exercise, because muscle is built from both stimulus and raw material, and you need both. The raw material is protein, the building block of muscle, so adequate protein is essential for building and maintaining muscle, and exercise without enough protein, or protein without exercise, each achieves far less than the two together. As I've discussed elsewhere, older adults often need somewhat more protein than younger adults, because of that anabolic resistance, and they often get too little, especially at breakfast, loading most of their protein into dinner. So to support your muscle, aim to get a good source of protein at each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, spreading it across the day rather than concentrating it in one meal, because your body can only use so much at a time for muscle. Good protein sources include eggs, dairy like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese and milk, meat, fish, beans and legumes, and nuts. Pairing adequate, well-distributed protein with your strength exercise gives your muscles both the signal to build and the bricks to build with, which is the powerful combination that truly preserves and rebuilds muscle. So the formula for fighting sarcopenia is clear: regular strength exercise plus adequate, well-distributed protein. Either alone helps, but together they're far more effective. Let me give you the rest of the practical picture because a few more things support the fight. General physical activity beyond dedicated strength exercise matters too. Walking, staying active, moving throughout the day, and avoiding long periods of sitting all keep your muscles engaged and support the whole effort, even though it's the resistance exercise specifically that drives the most muscle building. Balance exercises, as I've discussed, complement strength work in protecting against falls. Getting enough overall good nutrition, including adequate calories and the vitamins and minerals involved in muscle health like vitamin D, supports muscle, so eating well generally matters. And critically, fighting hard against the muscle loss that comes with inactivity and illness. If you're laid up with an illness or recovering from surgery, doing what gentle movement you safely can and getting back to activity and good nutrition as soon as it's safe helps limit the rapid muscle loss those periods cause, which is genuinely important. So ask your doctor or a physical therapist about safe activity during and after illness. So the full picture is strength exercise as the centerpiece, adequate well-distributed protein as the partner, general activity and balance work and good overall nutrition as support, and special vigilance to limit muscle loss during illness and inactivity. Let me add a sensible word about getting started safely, because I want you to fight back effectively and safely. If you're new to strength exercise, frail, or have health conditions, it's wise to talk to your doctor before starting. And a physical therapist is an outstanding resource who can design a safe, effective, personalized strength program suited to your abilities and any limitations, and can get you started with confidence, which is especially worth doing if you've had falls, are quite weak, or have significant health issues. Start where you are, with what you can manage, and progress gradually, because the goal is steady, safe building, not overdoing it. Even very gentle starting points, a few chair stands, some seated exercises, light resistance, are genuinely worthwhile and can be built upon. Consistency matters more than intensity. Regular, moderate strength work, done faithfully over time, builds and preserves muscle. So the aim is a sustainable habit, not occasional heroic effort. So get started safely. Ideally with professional guidance if you're frail or unsure. Begin gently, progress gradually, and above all, be consistent. Let me paint you a picture of how this can go two very different ways, because the contrast is the whole lesson. Picture a man in his late 70s who, like most people, has simply accepted his gradual loss of strength as inevitable aging, doing less and less, sitting more, never challenging his muscles, eating light meals low in protein. Year by year he weakens, until he struggles to rise from his chair, feels unsteady on his feet, and gives up activities he loved. Then he gets ill and spends a week in bed, loses a chunk of muscle quickly, and emerges so weak that he can barely manage on his own, tipping from independence toward frailty and dependence, perhaps never fully recovering. The invisible thief, unchallenged, won. Now picture the same man who understands what you now understand. He starts doing chair stands and gentle resistance exercises a few times a week, makes sure to get protein at each meal, keeps walking and staying active, and gets some guidance from a physical therapist. Over months, he grows measurably stronger, rises from his chair with ease, feels steadier and more confident, and builds a reserve of muscle. When he gets ill, his greater strength helps him weather it and recover far better, and he holds on to his independence for years longer. Same man, same age, but actively fighting muscle loss rather than passively accepting it made the difference between frailty and continued independence. That contrast is exactly why this matters, and exactly why fighting back is worth it. And let me speak directly to those of you caring for or close to an older person, because muscle loss is so consequential for their independence and so amenable to being fought, and you can help enormously. Understand that muscle loss is not simply inevitable aging to be accepted, but something that can be slowed, halted, and even reversed with strength exercise and good protein at any age, including in the frail and very old. You can help by encouraging and supporting regular strength exercise, doing chair stands or gentle resistance exercises together, making it a shared routine, or arranging a physical therapy referral or a suitable class, which is especially valuable for someone frail or who has fallen. You can help with nutrition, ensuring they get good protein at each meal, since older adults so often fall short, offering eggs, dairy, fish, beans, and other protein sources, and making protein-rich food appealing and easy. You can encourage general activity and discourage long periods of sitting. And critically, you can be vigilant during and after illness or hospitalization when muscle is lost so fast, encouraging safe, gentle movement and a prompt return to activity and good nutrition as soon as it's safe, ideally with guidance from their medical team because that's when frailty so often sets in. Helping an older person preserve and build their muscle through strength exercise and good protein is genuinely one of the most powerful things you can do to protect their independence, their safety from falls, and their resilience, and it's never too late to start. Let me draw this all together. Sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength, is a quiet, invisible thief that accumulates gradually over the decades and accelerates sharply during inactivity and illness. And while some muscle loss with age is natural, it is absolutely not something you must passively accept. It matters profoundly because your muscle is the foundation of your independence, mobility, balance, and protection against falls, metabolic health, and your resilience in the face of illness. So losing it leads to weakness, frailty, falls, and lost independence, while preserving it protects all of those things. It's driven by the aging of the muscle-building machinery, by anabolic resistance, and above all by declining activity and inadequate protein, the last two of which you control. And here is the genuinely hopeful, empowering truth. Muscle can be preserved and rebuilt at any age, including in the 80s and 90s and even in the frail, through the right kind of exercise, strength, or resistance exercise in gentle, accessible forms like chair stands, squats, resistance bands, and light weights, paired with adequate, well-distributed protein at each meal. So you have real, powerful control over your own strength, your own independence, and your own resilience. So here's what I'll leave you with. First, understand that the gradual loss of strength with age, sarcopenia, is a quiet thief that undermines your independence, balance, and resilience, but that it is not simply inevitable, because muscle can be preserved and rebuilt at any age. Second, fight back with the most powerful weapon, strength or resistance exercise, in gentle, accessible forms like chair stands, gentle squats, step-ups, resistance bands, and light weights, working your major muscles against resistance regularly and gradually increasing the challenge, because this works even in your 80s and 90s and it's never too late to start. Third, pair that exercise with its essential partner, adequate protein, getting a good protein source at each meal across the day, because muscle needs both the signal of exercise and the building blocks of protein. Fourth, support the fight with general activity, balance work, good overall nutrition, and special vigilance to limit the rapid muscle loss that comes with illness and inactivity. And fifth, get started safely, ideally with your doctor's okay and a physical therapist's guidance if you're frail or unsure, beginning gently and building consistently. Your muscle is the foundation of your independence, and unlike so much about aging, it's something you have real power to protect and even rebuild starting today at any age. So take care of yourself, challenge your muscles, eat your protein, and fight back against the invisible thief, because the strength you build is, quite literally, your freedom. And because a safe, effective program depends on your individual health and abilities, please treat this as your encouragement to talk with your own doctor and a physical therapist about a strength and nutrition plan suited to you, rather than as a substitute for their guidance.